Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Rage video where tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I was struck a little bit by the album for this, and aside from that, I genuinely have no clue what to expect. Apart from the fact that I know very little about... I know so little about this that I'm kind of... I am serious. I generally do not know what I was even supposed to, have for this. And in fact, apparently I'm just taking a look at... This is the last song on the album as well. It's... Again, to take it from me, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what I'm even meant to be looking at. I mean, the group is called A Pale Horse Named Death. And the album is actually called And Hell Will Follow Me. First of all, the artwork for this, look at it. It reminds me so much of what was it, the Redigal Horse Spirit or something like that from Elden Ring. But this look at him. How is he even still going? And you can even see crows just literally just ready to peck away at him. Damn. But aside from all that, if you guys want to check out the original video for yourselves, links will all be in the description down below. Now, as I said before, I very, very rarely do any sort of background checks whatsoever whenever we check out groups for the very first time, but especially for this, because I do not know what to expect. So, let's just make sure if everything's turned up, and yeah, we should be good to go. Okay, let's begin. Die Alone in 3, 2, 1, and... Okay, I'm a little bit confused about something. Is there lyrics actually going on in this? But it sounds like they're so soft. It's like a funeral procession, but told in rock music, and I think that's really cool. You know what's strange? I really like this. You know what? I think it's a very, I mean, from the presentation of this thing is that, again, I don't know what I was expecting, but I'm kind of like, I really like it, but it's kind of a little bit, for once, I'm generally not really sure how I can describe why I like it. I think if there is a reason why I like it so far, then it's kind of sad, but kind of like its own little thing. You know what I mean? It's like a funeral going on, but I don't think it's like it's like a funeral, but it's a there's no need to be sad kind of occasion. It's meant to be, let's celebrate somebody's life. I'm sorry to have to keep pausing this because, to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that there's something happening in about 18 minutes' time, I would have been sat here talking about probably this for maybe 3 hours. Because I'm convinced, ladies and gentlemen, and I know the song, we're not even 3 minutes into it, but I am 100% convinced this song was written by like PhD students. And what I mean by that is I don't think it's written by super geniuses, but I think it's people who've devoted time, maybe years, research. They wanted to discuss death in all its shades, in what it means from like, and you know how love has like 6 definitions? I'm convinced these guys are sort of like try to work out that death has 6 definitions, or can death be represented by an animal? Now, maybe they took it upon themselves to maybe just make this idea of like a horse can represent death because it carries people to the afterlife, to heaven, to hell, and the only way a horse could transport the souls of the dead is if the horse was death itself. It was in some way, like maybe on a more metaphysical sort of like plane, or it. I am. Oh, it's it now. It's I now again maybe again because I don't I now believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in concepts like the void because I've been over this story before many times about. When I was 13 years old, April 29th, 2011, I had this freak accident where I fell down a mountain and was very, very nearly killed. And for like 1 whole second, whether I was knocked unconscious, concussed, although curiously enough, when I was x-rayed, they didn't seem to see, it didn't show that I was concussed. So did I just black out for a second? Or did I see something like the space between, you know, between planes and stuff like that? Because some people have said they have referred to the void as like a depiction of hell. I don't know technically to what extent that might have to do with any of this, but you know what? So the way they say sometimes you feel like your world is turned upside down, sometimes your friends betray you. It could just be like a symptom of death. Or the concept, again, maybe you want to go for more a tarot sort of view, that death is merely the ending of one way of life and the beginning of a new one. Because if they were your friends, then they wouldn't have betrayed you, or they wouldn't have done what they did to you. So, but then why does that fit in maybe with the concept of death being represented as a horse? A pale horse as well. Is that maybe that's just in reference to the flesh tone that maybe some people have when they're near death, when their body begins to decompose, perhaps. Sometimes you find yourself all alone. Sometimes you find yourself all alone. All alone, yeah. My life has fallen apart so many times I lost count. So many people I knew, now they and I lost count. So many people I knew, now I all am lost. One thing is guaranteed, you always die alone. One thing is guaranteed, you always die alone, die alone. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was Die Alone by A Pale Horse Named Death. That's like... That is... I am like... Wow. Wow, wow, well, well, well. For the first time, again, in a very long time, I generally do not know what I'm even supposed to do. I don't know if I'm supposed to be happy. I don't know if I'm supposed to be sad. I'll tell you why I feel like I don't know if I should be happy or not. I think the reason why I think I'm supposed to be happy is that when you come to terms with something, you kind of accept it and then you go on to the next bits. So there's understanding, there's accepting, there's there's understanding, there's knowing, there's processing, there's accepting, and then there's the next bit. So it's like a 4-stage process. And the reason why, and that's kind of the reason why I should be happy, because I understand what they're going through and the points of the sort of people that go through this level of, I don't want to say despair, but just rather a level of despondency, as though they think of things that really normal people don't, not that they don't necessarily think about, but rather it's the things you kind of don't really put into process until you get it, you get past it. Yes, it's absolutely true, you always die alone. But that doesn't mean that people are not with you in spirit. You know what? You may have heard the famous line from Johnny Got His Gun, "Each man dies by himself alone." However, that doesn't mean to say they will ever be forgotten or they will ever be forgotten forever. If we remember the people who've left us, then they are still with us in spirit, in memory, in thought. I think that's far more encouraging than I think people have any right to say that it isn't. Because I've been to 2 funerals in my life. They were and to be honest, I felt they were very, very interesting parts of my life. Not because I was upset, not because I didn't know how to grieve or anything like that, but because the first funeral I ever went to was my nan's when I was only 17 years old. To be honest, I remember the news about when my granddad Tom died, but I was only about either 5 or 6 years old, and I did know my granddad, yes, but for some reason I didn't remember ever getting upset about that either. Not because I didn't understand it, but rather maybe unconsciously I just sort of accepted that these are the sort of things that happen. And I think especially maybe from a child's point of view, it might be a bit hard, a very nebulous sort of concept to explain or to understand more than anything. Because, listen, and again, this is the problem, I'm going to have to wrap things up rather quickly, but let me just tell you, and I've written stuff about this before, the most important lessons you could ever teach a human child is knowing and understanding. Those two concepts are not exactly the same. They are similar in principle, but they are worlds apart, according to Paul Weller. The more I see, the more I know, the less I understand. I am the changing man. I love that song, by the way. Paul Weller has got me through so many great parts as well, as I've been getting older and stuff like that. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. So a child could know about concepts like death and of heaven, hell, what they really think happens once a person dies. And then there's also the understanding, which is because it's all well and good for us to say, things like there may be, alien life forms out there in the universe. We might even know that as a fact. But when we understand it, because we're talking about creatures across the universe that who might never understand anything we say or anything we ever do. Our concepts on Earth, like traffic or the production of milk, could be as alien and as far removed from their experience as you could possibly imagine. And maybe, again, their ways may not be our ways, and humans do have a way of looking so strangely at things that, there's absolutely nothing to say about this. So, but I think when it comes to Die Alone by a Pale Horse Named Death, I don't feel upset. I don't feel happy at the same time, because it is a very difficult thing to come to terms with. But if we are so fixated on things like that, then why should we even think about living life to the fullest? You know what? It's an absolute. There were only two superlatives in life, ladies and gentlemen. You are born, and you die. Every single thing that happens in between those two moments is down to us. It is up to us. We have the power. It is our life to live. One of these days, ladies and gentlemen, I absolutely will make like a documentary movie where we go into this like to the absolute nth degree, because there is something incredibly deep about this band. And I don't know whether it was just by sheer luck or just like pulled it out of the hat to do Die Alone. And I don't know whether the 12 other songs on this album, from And Hell Will Follow Me to When Crows Descend Upon You, I don't know whether any of them will ever follow suit. But I kind of want to find out. It's also the first time I think we've ever covered goth metal. So I think for what it's worth, this means I'm going to have to pull out a lot of my A-level English literature, because I studied goth, the macabre, extensively when I was 17 years old. I think we should do that, and maybe we could all learn something. Maybe we could learn something about ourselves and about what these guys are really all about. So until then, when we talk about A Pale Horse Named Death again, we are going to be talking about properly anal levels of detail. So that is going to be an experience and a half. But then again, this entire song was an album and a half. So anyway, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this reaction video to Die Alone by A Pale Horse Named Death. Please make sure to leave all your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys felt of Die Alone for yourselves. And I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.